Hello, and welcome to today's session on how Everpure uses customer evidence to influence modern B2B buyers. So today there's going to be so much insight that's brought to our guest, and today's guest is, drum roll please. There we go. Oops, sorry about that, everyone. Is Rohan Kamra. He is the head of digital and revenue marketing for AP for Asia Pacific and Japan and global projects at Everpure. So welcome, Rohan. It's
Thank you,
good to have
Jennifer.
it's good to have you today. And then you have myself, Jennifer Geisler, Chief Marketing Officer at PeerSpot, and yes, a former client of PeerSpot as well for 10 plus years. And behind the scenes, we have Trent Conley. He's my colleague. And so if you have any Q&A or anything, just put it in the chat and we'll get it addressed either as we go or throughout the whole entire session. Now, in order to make sure that we have today's session in proper context, I want to just talk about the more of a review ecosystem for you, and then I'll point out specifically where Everpure is going to provide their unique insights. So the idea is that you get a validated review, you get the buyer evaluation, and we get that on PeerSpot. And from there, what we do at PeerSpot, we end up amplifying that on AWS and Google Cloud Marketplace as long as you have a listing. So in the cases of Everpure, they're listed on AWS Marketplace. So we automatically take the review that we capture at PeerSpot and amplify it there for them automatically. They don't have to do anything. And considering there's about 872 billion committed spend between those two marketplaces, you definitely want to be seen there and have your great review posted there as well. What we also do is we amplify it through LLM visibility, basically to show up when people are searching. And Rohan's going to talk a little bit more about that and how they're being the benefit of actually getting greater LLM visibility. And then finally, what we're going to also bring into the fold today is about how to use the content from your actual review, whether it's to do customer stories, whether it's to get website proof, on your website or have widgets, whatever the case may be, ways that you can create awareness and generate demand on behalf of yourself. So what we're going to focus on today with Rohan is more so on the LLM visibility around the content and also on the demand gen side. Now, something that I find really amazing that I want you to pay close attention to, and why I'm very excited about having Rohan here today, is that he has cracked the code on how you can take using reviews and not only apply it based on what I just shared with you, but how he is able to orchestrate that so that different groups within Everpure are taking advantage of it. So often we may just do it based on our own function, such as demand gen, right? Or getting customer stories, for instance, or LLM visibility, or just the content, right? But what I believe that Rohan has mastered on behalf of Everpure, and what I'd really like for you to learn from today is how he is able to take that one, the ability to take reviews and then apply it across to the benefit of Everpure. So with that, I'm very excited to turn this over to Rohan, where he will be able to speak about what his strategy is and actually how he's doing it today. So over to you, my friend.
Thank you, Jennifer, for a very nice introduction. Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you're getting this from, at whatever time. Um, Jennifer just spoke about the modern B2B journey, and the fact is, it's not linear. It's fairly complicated, has multiple ups and downs. It's a bit like a roller coaster, actually. It goes up and down. You feel you're in a mood of acceleration. It slows. But what hasn't changed for the last many years is the fact that as marketeers, we need to understand who's in the market at a certain moment or try to buy, or who's right now researching. So the classic 95-5 rule also can be broken down as hunting and farming kind of a methodology. But we'll stick to 95-5 split. So 95% of the buyers at any given moment of time are not in the market to buy something immediately. They're researching, they're figuring out, they're evaluating their options. At any given moment of time, it's only 5% typically who are in the market to actually buy. But what we do as marketeers is that we go after the complete 100%, assuming everybody's going to buy from us tomorrow. And if you're an enterprise, an enterprise focused organization like ours, the buying cycles are not a few days. They can run into months, even years. Larger deals could be up to 18 months in certain cases. And this can dramatically differ from market to market. My primary responsibilities are for APAC and Japan. And I can tell you in a market like Japan, these kind of deals take way longer than anywhere else in the world. So the bottom line is, as a marketeer, you need to focus on two key elements of demand. The first is demand creation and demand capture. So, rather than focusing all the energies on capture, you need to first create demand. So the classic brand to demand cycle. So, looking at those imperatives, our whole strategy around marketing and specifically how we engage with PeerSpot is built on those principles, which are that B2B buying, especially in enterprises, is not a singular decision. It's multi-people. It takes time. It is rational with some bits of emotional pointers to it. It's similar to anybody who's making a high value purchase decision. Example, you buying a car or insurance. What happens in your mind? Imagine that happening for 15 to 20 people on an average. So that's what you need to keep in mind is the influence that you need to do not to an individual but to a team, and keep in mind that not everybody is in the market to buy immediately, so you need to keep touching them, engaging them, as I call it, massaging them, so then the right time comes in, they think about you, and if they think about you in today's environment, that the higher chance that you might actually win the final thing. So again, a lot of pieces of data that you can find from the industry, it's very important to be top of mind. I think we can move a little ahead with that logic. So in such a situation, again, I will not go into data points, but practitioners trust, experiences, implementations. If you look at why authenticity is so important, why peer-to-peer networks and how what role they play, it is just again mirrors how we as humans behave in the real world. If I tell you today, that this particular insurance is good for you, you're most likely to believe my opinion than if you read 500 reviews from third party. But if I tell you that in confidence, you're most likely to at least consider it. Same logic applies, and in enterprise B2B as well. But to do it at scale, you have maybe a few options. So the way we look at it is, how do we build this as a foundation wherein peer-to-peer authority is what we leverage on in the most transparent manner, and in a place that we don't really influence it in any ways. It happens organically. We try to leverage that portion, and that's something I think we're trying to do with PeerSpot as well, and I think to some good results. So I think in the next slide, I'll talk a little bit about how we're looking at a validated review which PeerSpot provides us, and how it works. So obviously you have the context, so it's just not about those 5 stars. As I said earlier, authenticity, transparency is very important, and especially for brands, the fact that you're not interfering it into that is very important. As you become more meddling into it, it takes away the authenticity and the trust value. So what's important is obviously context. Can't take it away from the context. But along with that, it's about the fact that there's a critique element to it. Could be a support element to it. There's an advice and how it impacts ROI. When it all comes together, that kind of a review becomes more validated, and that travels faster than something else, which is maybe created on, again, more marketplaces have reviews, but if these 3 or 4 elements come together, it gives a way higher authenticity, and of course believability, and people then look at to it with a lot of attention, and then even adoption happens through that.
And Rohan, you pointed out to me, and I'm in, fierce
Mhm.
agreement with you, is that we're not only trying to educate and inform the traditional human buyer, right? But now with AI, when we talk
Right.
about getting the citations, they're looking for depth and breadth, right? They're not looking
Uh,
for just what is the top, but they're like, okay, if that's the top, give me the proof behind why it has 4 stars, for example. That's another reason why you need to go beyond the stars, right? Is that
abs-
that's kind of changed the game for us as marketers to say, okay, great, people like you, but why? Um, and
Absolutely.
and AI has a really big appetite for that, probably more than the
Yeah,
human buyer. But the AI buyer, right,
absolutely.
has such a big appetite for this. It's like, I want to know
No,
more and
no,
more. Give me the details.
you're absolutely right. So, as machines are doing a lot of the grunt work that we used to do a few years back, collating information, researching, bringing out the insights, putting all together, making it more digestible or palatable for maybe, your management. I mean, AI does a great job of it. And what these LLMs, kind of really prefer are more independent third party resources versus what you have something on your own website. And even there, I mean, again, this is a big rabbit hole. I'll stick to some key pointers here, but um, the LLMs love to look at third party, and especially when you got when you have people interacting. So, so peer to peer again becomes very important. They look at it with more authority versus, we could put a great case study of ours on our website versus somebody giving us a positive review on the third party. That LLM would, in most cases, prioritize that over something what we're talking on. Or so, you cannot keep, blowing your own trumpet. You got others to talk about you, and if they talk positively, that has a much more higher ramification than you try and do it yourself. So the role of third party, independent, verified uh, outlets, then the same for even, you can find the same logic for even publishing. Wherever people have legacy and they bring in high quality content creators and curators, LLMs tend to love them more than somebody talking about themselves. Uh,
Yeah.
so I think the role of a validated review becomes even more important with the context of LLMs, which is I think I would say the last 12 to 18 months has taken off dramatically. And it's changing even now. So I can't say how they'll behave 6 months from now. I honestly don't have a clue. I wish I had. But that seems to be the way it's going.
Yeah. And just so you guys know, this is one of many of the reviews of Everpure. This is an actual review. We just had
Yeah.
to cut it up because it's so long. But this is the actual type of things that people say about Everpure, which is extraordinarily positive here. Um, so let's go ahead and talk about, like I said, you're very unique on how not only have you used it across multiple functions at Everpure, but how you've done it very programmatically, right? It's not a
Mhm.
piecemeal approach. So this is I'm so excited about hearing you on this part, Rohan.
Yeah. So we've been working with PeerSpot, if I'm not wrong, for more than 3 years. I joined the company 3 years back, and we were actually at that time already working with PeerSpot, with you guys. And interestingly, like any collaboration, it starts with something small. So the classic try something small. If it works, you scale up and then you expand. Very similar approach is what we had. So we started off obviously. So I represent the growth marketing team at Everpure. So things like digital experiences, paid media, inbound, outbound, typically sit in this team along with things like partner programs, etc. So our engagement obviously started from the paid side. So even now, the paid team leads the engagement with PeerSpot. Uh, and herein, the genesis of the idea was to how can we, at the consideration level, try to come into conversation where we are not originally a part of. So that was a challenge. We are still a challenger brand in our category, which is, data storage and now data management. There are some really well-entrenched large organizations who've been doing it for much longer than us. Uh, but we do have a very good product, I can tell you that. But it's a pretty busy field that we play in. So our initial idea was how can we insert ourselves contextually without interference in an environment where somebody is looking for potentially something from my customer. Sorry, my bad, my competition. So, and that's how we started working, which is something called the sponsored comparison that is offered on PeerSpot. Again, a pretty interesting and unique solution. You don't typically find something like this at a lot of places. So that's how we first started engaging with PeerSpot. And this comparison also has an element of where you can generate leads, or I would say net new database for your own first party data. And you can obviously then nurture them further. So that's how we started. But as we started working further and we started seeing the value of this engagement, we expanded this to few other things. For example, advocacy, which is, how could we work and generate reviews and testimonials, leveraging the platform, and harnessing the platform so that again, the more reviews you have, the more visibility you generate. And then now with the LLMs coming in, more crawlability, if that's the right word to use, for the LLMs to happen. And this also gives a fair amount of social proof, which is interesting. So we've been, at least 2 years from now, we've been working on advocacy side of the house with our customer advocacy team that's been working with PeerSpot, and we are leveraging this relationship across some of our key milestone events, wherein we talk to our customers who are attending, and then we kind of generate those reviews. And obviously, there are other ways of using it as well. The third engagement is in our on the website side, which is our own domain. So on our website, we're looking at implementing a PeerSpot widget, which is essentially pulling those reviews which sit on the PeerSpot side, pulling directly on a website. Again, the focus here is, can we do that and enhance the experience of the user who's coming to a website? And as we all know, in today's world, driving traffic and holding on to the user or audiences on a website is becoming more difficult. As a user, they have multiple places to go to seek information, find information. And with LLMs, they do a great job of compressing information, something very easy to consume. So why would they come to a site like us or five other companies that are selling them a fairly similar solution? So it's important that we bring in those elements that are which act like hooks for people to come. And of course, beyond the hooks, they give us you validation. So we all know the value of a validated a review. So we're trying to bring that experience onto a website. So as you said, Jennifer, this is a multi-team engagement. We started small in one aspect. We have scaled up to multiple, and hopefully we'll drive value out of it and keep doing something more interesting like this.
Oh, okay. So let's dig down into the first part, right? It's
Yeah.
around the mainly sponsored comparisons here.
Yeah.
So
I think one of the most interesting ones, and I mean, this is how we kind of got started engaging with PeerSpot. People are looking for products from two different companies, and which are, let's say, in my competition set, and they're not thinking about us. That's where we, through a sponsored comparison, we insert ourselves into that discussion, and we see this working really well for us. This has driven a lot of quality traffic to our website, and also helps to further on generate some leads of people who have high intent. So, again, we spoke about the 95-5 rule in the beginning. Finding the people who have the right intent at a particular time is really, really difficult. You have signals coming from various places, but those are just signals. Intent is a very overly used word in the B2B marketing. So I would say something like this is fairly close to actual intent of somebody who's considering different solutions. So this is, I think, a really powerful means to figure out who's in the market, and then obviously start a conversation with them if you don't know them. So I think sponsored comparisons, yeah, definitely very, very, very interesting solution from an advertising point of view for us. I think the next one, which we spoke is advocacy, which my customer advocacy team engages with PeerSpot directly. Again, very, very useful, leveraging the reviews that are generated on PeerSpot. How do we augment those? We are working currently on our different product lines. So it's not across a single product line, it's multiple product lines, and looking at expanding. The idea that can we generate um, organic reviews of customers themselves talking about our solutions. And then we can obviously um, bring them into potentially pulling them through the PeerSpot widget into our website as well. But the primary motive of customer advocacy is to generate more reviews, and obviously, help the crawlers, LLM crawlers, give more fodder to them to find us easily, and when they're providing answers or responses to somebody looking for something in our category.
Hold
I'll
on.
keep.
Let me share my screen real quick. Sorry, I think we
Yeah, yeah. No, it's
lost.
okay. I can chat. I mean, this is something close
Okay,
to my heart.
good.
So
Yes.
yeah,
There you
we
go.
can. Yeah. So I think we spoke about advocacy, it's harnessing, and then the web experience part is again very interesting. We're implementing it as we speak. Um, Bring those reviews from PeerSpot website right into our website. Uh, Again, improve stickiness, time on page, and obviously make a case for LLMs to come and crawl us better. Because again, I said, they prefer third party neutral content, and things like reviews definitely are high on their, I feel, on the crawlability criterias. Again, I'm not an expert on this one, but we generally seeing good performance coming from reviews wherever they are. So this is again an interesting engagement, which our web team uh, collaborates directly with the PeerSpot team. So again, we're actually in the process of implementation, and I think we should be done in a couple of weeks from now.
Yeah. Um, if you could go back just to the two slides back, I did have a
Mhm.
question on that one
Sure.
that did pop up. It said, how do you, um, and if you answered this one, but how do you pay for this? Do you pay for this per click or whatever? Because that's, like most advertising sites will say, oh, you pay per click or something. Do you know what your business, do you know what how you pay for this?
So
Um,
yeah, so the buying model is on impressions. It's not necessarily on clicks, and which is fairly standard in the industry. I think you know
yeah,
when you look at something like this, I wouldn't honestly get bogged down on how do you buy. But again, for information, it's typical CPM buys because it's based on number of impressions. Of course, you calculate the clicks further on and you calculate the cost of it, but I don't start with that for something like this.
yeah,
It's not search, it's not linear search. Um,
yeah,
we're also actually advertising on Chat GPT. Now we're testing that out in a few markets where it's available. Again, though, ultimately your aim is to reach the right audience and generate an action with a click. But you don't start with that. So for
yeah,
information, yeah, it's a CPM buy. And we do actually generate high quality traffic coming to our website from here, um,
yeah.
without getting into many numbers.
Yeah, and also I think it's important because I, as a marketer, like appreciate this as well, is PeerSpot does not offer this to multiple vendors at the same time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
in the case of Everpure, who is currently doing this, they're not competing with another vendor to actually be popped up and shared as that sponsored. That is a dedicated sponsored that's rendering.
Yeah.
So it's not like, oh, got to compete, I got to pay more because someone else is paying for it or
Yeah.
anything. It's you pay for the presence and you get that presence and you don't have to compete against another vendor to be shown up as the third option in the event that you're not
Yeah.
currently being compared. And that's a little bit of a different model too, right, Rohan, from that
Yeah, yeah,
standpoint.
yeah. Which is I agree with you, which is a different model and has its own value because it is prioritizing and incentivizing people who are early movers. Uh, and it also helps you to cement your place. It helps you to kind of try and get into a position where you can own a certain product category, for example. So I think it's basically is valuing consistency over time. And that's what we are trying to sum up. So what you see on the screen. So Flash Array is one of our primary Flash products, which competes with similar products from some of our competitors and partners. I mean, for example, Nutanix and Red Hat have solutions, but they're also our partners, so always complicated. But so hence we want to own that mind space for our product against competition, and hence PeerSpot has that uh, uh, model wherein at a given moment of time only one advertiser is allowed there. So that helps you to kind of value your consistency and as I said, own some mind space over time.
I had just real quick, like a
Mm.
two-part question for you, Jennifer, that came in.
Okay, thank
It
you.
was about this. It said, who can launch paid campaigns on PeerSpot? And also, do we have to have any reviews to be able to participate in sponsor comparisons, or is there any other requirements for doing this?
Okay, so I'm going to answer the second one first. So there's actually two tracks that people can take. They can, and you can do like the peer intent, what we call peer intent in our lead gen program and those type of things, the lead generation program. You can do that without requiring being a participant in our what we would call our review program. Okay. So that is independent. And just to be very clear, is that you don't have to pay to have reviews on PeerSpot, but we do have a program that we help people get reviews. We can also help them license that reviews to get things like the customer story that Rohan had shared with you on the next slide, and to be able to use that content. So that more of that, the more of getting the reviews and using the content reviews, that's separate from leads, but you do not have to have the review program in order to take advantage of generating leads, which is shown here. What was the first one, my friend?
Oh, just who can launch a paid campaign, and also do you have to have reviews to have a sponsor comparison?
Okay, if you say who, I believe that would be in the context to if you're I mean, really any vendor, anyone that has a listing um, on PeerSpot. If you don't have one, we can also help you get the listing. But anyone that has a listing on PeerSpot can participate in this program. You'll find that we're more inclusive than we are exclusive. So if you're listed and you want to be part of this, boom, you can actually, participate in the program. Okay.
Cool.
And we, okay. Oh, and back on the previous one on slide 11,
Mm.
did you talk about Rohan about the how people are able to use it to help bring in more web traffic and generate more of that engagement? Because I was the one that was accidentally knocked off the system, thanks to the wonderful world of the internet. Can't, that those problems still exist, but were you able
Yeah.
to talk about that? Because I really thought your experience, how you're looking at and how you're using it was extraordinarily valuable.
No, so the way we are looking at it, as I think as folks said, bringing in traffic to websites is becoming more difficult. Users, in that case, our customers or potential prospects, they have enough options. To find information in today's world, I think it's become much easier. Uh, Subject to what you're looking for. It's You don't have to hunt at 20 places. Things come to you in one place, which is a great usage for anybody, even for us when I'm doing that. So the reason of bringing working with PeerSpot, especially on the widget, which is essentially pulling the reviews from the PeerSpot site onto your own website. In our case, a website. Our idea is two-pronged. The traffic that we get on our website through various sources, paid, unpaid, referral, etc. These We are very hopeful that this should help us to you know uh, hold them longer, you know give them one more reason to navigate, read more about us. I mean, like anybody, I would say our website has really high quality information, but getting somebody and holding their attention beyond a first few seconds requires some tact. So this is one of the, I would say, hooks that we want to use for that. The second is again, LLMs. They crawl everything when they are looking for an answer, which is asked by a user on their platform, not on us. So we want to make sure for citation, which means when they are synthesizing their answer, they pick up more information from our site because that will be more favorable for us, and it'll get cited as well. So not a lot of LLMs cite the sources, so we want to have increase the citations there as well. And we feel with these reviews sitting natively on our website, that should help us in that objective of getting more citations as well. So all in all, primarily two reasons: improve our own stickiness, and we give more reasons for LLMs to come to our website, pick up content, build their answers, and give us citations.
Cool. Okay. So let's dive a little bit deeper on the AI side of things, right? So we actually have this data that this is actually your data that you've
Yeah.
got as a result of your visibility and your citations here.
Yeah, so I don't small tables, but again, you can see Everpure on from a vendor point of view, really high up there, and that's something really great. So obviously, tons of stuff happens in the back end, which some is very operational, but it's good to see that all those efforts are paying, are kind of are fruitful. And then obviously from a product point of view, we are behind one of our primary competitors, as you can see in the table, but we do see we have two clear product lines which are highly the number 2 and 3 there. So bottom line, this kind of visibility measurement is really important. What a lot of us are used to from an SEO point of view, organic rankings point of view, that model has evolved to this. So SEO is still there. It's not dead. It has its own value and completely, justifiable value. But you need to start looking at LLM visibility across multiple platforms. And that's a challenge because it's not one platform. You got GPT, you got Claude, you got Perplexity, you got Grok, and of course, if you look at the China ecosystem, there are a few more which are, I think, still we're all figuring them out. But the top 3, 4 players, you got to look at all of them and see how are you ranking or how do you stack up in their citations and visibility. I think, and I must say that looking us, at Everpure from a brand as well as product perspective, being in the top 3 in both those charts is definitely, gives us that confidence that whatever steps we are taking in the back end with our marketing is definitely working out.
Yeah.
And of course, PeerSpot definitely helps a lot here. A lot of, I know LLMs crawl your site, as we spoke earlier, because you're a neutral third-party site. You are not, you're not supported by a specific vendor in our category at least, and I'm sure for other categories. So gives more fodder to the LLMs to go and munch and kind of help people like us in our visibility.
Right. And you guys, I really have to give Everpure a lot of credit here because they, they're was not the largest player. Sometimes even when you're the largest player, like, one of the biggest companies and within a particular market, you may have a new product that you're trying to bring to light. So whether you have whether you're the biggest player that's trying to introduce a new product, or in this case with Everpure, not being the largest player, and that doesn't mean that it's not that they're largest within storage, but like Dell, they have, a greater portfolio of offerings, right? But for Everpure to be able to achieve this is incredible. Commended for their efforts on how they're using all the tools available to them to show up. Because if you see this on the top vendors by LLM visibility, they are the top. And they're doing extraordinarily well. That's on the left-hand side, and that you see with the yellow bars. So they're doing very, very well. So even, not everybody, on the call today or if you're listening in the future is the biggest player in the market, right? Because there's only one biggest player in each market. But this shows that in the world of AI, and by getting, a lot of the content that they have, a lot of the third-party endorsement that they have, they're able to show up extraordinarily high when citations come up. And
Yeah.
so I just think this is proof to the strategy that Rohan is championing at Everpure in order to get the results like this. So one, great job, Everpure. But number two, you're actually showing how by using the multiple levers, you're achieving this. This is impressive. Um,
Yeah.
so my hat's off to the whole entire Everpure marketing team for doing so well in AI visibility. So to the people listening, don't feel so overwhelmed. There is a way. You don't have to be the biggest kid on the block in order to get these type of results that Everpure's done. You just have to be smart. And like I said, the approach that Rohan and team have taken have been able to pull this off. So this is the actual measurement of the great work that they've actually been doing. So congratulations on that.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of effort by the teams that are, and it's not obviously one team. It's a multitude of teams. I think, and you said, yes, I would say amongst the vendors in our category for enterprise storage, I think I would say we are the most forward-looking in terms of how we're looking at the category. We are moving from a storage to more a data management company. So I think that also helps because, I think LLMs understand context pretty well, and they
Mhm.
look at the vision of a company and how we are approaching, a category. And I think that's where we score higher. Again, those are very subjective things. Of course, I work for Everpure. And I believe in our strategy and larger, what we are and what we want to be as a company. But I think those also play a role, and I think we were also pretty early in the game. I mean, we realized this importance of LLMs visibility, maybe faster than others, and I think it's trying to be a faster, more nimble team. And yeah, those results are, as I said, they're very satisfying. But yeah, the point is this can change very fast. So you'll keep doing this and understanding better how these large models work, and making sure you're good at your game. Like, I can't say top of your game because being that top is very difficult. So trying to cope up and keep pace.
Yep, is on that one. Great. Okay. So I mean, we're still not done with you, Rohan, just a bit. You're not off the hook yet. But one thing, as we're talking about learnings that we want you to take away from this, at the very beginning, I mentioned this, is that, we talked a lot about, reviews and what they feed. But this is just a high level of what the ecosystem of the major type of categories within the ecosystem. And this slide is not to say that one is better than the other. What this is hoping to help you provide clarity around, just based on the proof points that Rohan is showing about how he's using the different review platforms, in this case specifically PeerSpot, is that they serve very different purposes. It's just not like, oh yeah, I'm just using a review platform. I'll start with the center. If you're very much about, badge and ad driven type thing, then the volume centric one where they give you some the star ratings and you can say that you got a badge right away. Those are great. That is the volume centric player. We all have, sometimes we consider this a TAX tax, but the analyst ecosystem, and we pretty well know who do the magic quadrants. The one thing I want to point out to you, and this is from firsthand knowledge, is that the analysts that do the magic quadrants, yes, they do use their own closed system. However, these analysts use multiple sources, right? We all know that they talk to your clients. They also go out and they look at other third-party websites. They look at other third-party research. These industry analysts are very comprehensive in their approach. So you need to be careful not to focus only on one approach when you're dealing with the analyst community because they do go outside, right? That's their job. They're highly accountable for the results that they put out. So they do a great level of due diligence. So, if you only focus on that one analyst ecosystem, like for instance, only do reviews on the Gartner Peer Insights, and you ignore other things, they look beyond that just because that's what good researchers actually do. Then I bring us back to the side that we have, and hopefully we've enlightened you what the difference is more on long form validated reviews, being on the marketplaces, using the content, having more of these comparisons. So a little bit of a different approach than what you see with the volume centric or the analyst type ecosystem. So this is just to put things in perspective based on what your needs are, is the type of review platform that you'd actually be looking at. So I want to turn this back to Rohan, right? Because I think we can always learn a lot by lessons learned, right? As you went through this
Yep.
process. So if we go ahead and Trent, if you could help me out and flip to the next slide, I'd like Rohan for you to speak about the lessons learned for the people listening into this webinar today.
I think, in regards to our experience working with PeerSpot and how we approached it and where do we stand today, I think, uh, again, the three elements of adoption, exec support, and obviously organizational alignment can kind of capture this kind of pretty well. So the key is to start somewhere. Uh, and I'm a big believer of start small, test, make mistakes, correct them, move ahead, scale up. So that philosophy is something that kind of worked with the peer spot engagement pretty well. We started with one team, expand to multiple teams, got visibility up to the exec level. As we were doing it along the way, found that the whole LLM crawlability was something we did not start with that notion in mind. I mean, it was very different 3 years back. So I wouldn't say we could see the future, but we wanted to be in the right conversations when people are looking at my competition. Simple. It was a simple thought. How can I insert myself contextually in the right environment? And from there, it went to elements that we discovered over time, or got understanding of what the offerings are. I mean, so I think in that sense, I must you know we've had good partners at PeerSpot, our account team who kind of keep us abreast of what's happening and how we can maybe do things differently in a better way. And again, these are very honest conversations because not everything will go as per plan, not everything is doable, or not everything is relevant for us. So I think lessons are obviously try small, scale fast. Even if you fail, it's fine. um, when you do the things and they bear the fruits, take it to the highest level. Nothing works better than an exec sponsorship or support. And then as you find usages across the organization, bring more people together. More is always better. More the merrier, as we say. As people see value in something which works for them specifically, because as I said, we're all individuals working in separate teams. So the value that different teams can derive at different points of time, as that comes together, even though it could be separate in silos sometimes, it's not great. But once they come together, kind of manifolds, and it's an exponential value that derives the company. So those are things I think. Learnings that I would can encapsulate, but I think what you see there on the slide kind of does it pretty nicely.
Okay, great, thanks. Trent, who's our colleague behind the scenes. So first of all, Rohan, before we go into, there is a couple of questions. Thank you.
Okay.
You guys, I really hope that you were able to learn a lot from Rohan about how he was able to take it across and how things are in evolution, right? There's so much learning from him, and I was a customer of PeerSpot for 10 years, and I still learned a lot from him as well during this whole entire process as too. So my hat's off to Everpure, my hat's off to Rohan, and I really appreciate you taking the time here today. But I don't think you're off the hook yet. We still have some more questions. So Trent, what
Yeah.
question do we have, please?
I got two questions. This is like a follow-up to what the person asked earlier.
Okay.
They said in our personal area, we don't see any sections or links to paid campaigns platform. How can we start?
Okay, so this would be for if someone's an existing customer, we have such as Everpure, we have these customer dashboards, and that's, I believe, what the individual is referring to. So one, you can easily talk to your customer success manager to say, hey, I want to know more about this. So there you go, right there. There's your connection there. And if for some reason you don't know who that is, reach out to us. Trent and myself be more than happy to connect you. The other thing is also on the company website. If you go to company.peerspot.com, you'll see a whole section in the on the platform standpoint about demand generation. And so if you click there, that'll give you a little bit more information. But basically, you don't have it. I don't believe you have anything in your dashboard because you don't have an active engagement around demand gen, and that's why it's not showing up there. So reach out to your customer success manager. If not, we're a backup, and you can always get more information on company.peerspot.com for more information there. And I just want to make sure we answer your question there. So, Trent?
And then another one for a different one for Rohan.
Yes.
From all the ways you've worked with PeerSpot, maybe if you have a data point or just from your personal opinion, what do you feel like has given your company the most like ROI or the biggest
Mm.
impact?
Okay. See, the way we work with PeerSpot are, across three different teams. Each of them has very different metrics, first of all. Um, I'll try and capture two because I said the third one is under implementation. So it's not really given us any, borne any fruits yet. But I think for a sponsored comparison, there are two elements we look at it. A, the traffic we are generating from that. And that's, as I said, it's fairly a middle of the funnel traffic, somebody considering a solution or a product. So that's been a consistent source of traffic which we've seen. We also, look at the demand gen point of view, which is those leads, and these are people who are researching and have shown high intent in a solution like ours, and those again are fairly interesting, and we've seen good value coming from those two. So, kind of rounded answer. So these two, I would say, is we've seen value. The LLM visibility, as I said, that's something we did not start off, 3 years back with that point in mind. But over time, that's again a great example of how those reviews and visibility on PeerSpot is helping how LLMs look at us. So again, don't have a we don't have a target to be in a certain spot. Of course, we want to be leading there, but there's no specific target saying it has to be 70,000 citations or 20,000 citations. But idea is to kind of maintain leadership position over time. Specific to customer advocacy, the team who runs this, I have an oversight, but I don't run it directly all the time. But they have a target of X number of reviews to be generated over a period of time. And then how do we engage with PeerSpot, especially at some of our major events, so like a lot of technical tech companies, we have large events, which are our forums wherein our customers come together, prospects come there, and we talk about our, what we are doing in our category and how we're changing the market, et cetera, et cetera. We have currently a set of roadshows happening across EMEA and APJ. We had the big event in Vegas last month, in June, actually. So at those kind of events, the team has their own internal targets of generating X number of reviews, which again, are generated and they sit on PeerSpot. Again, these are organic, and then they again help us with the whole cycle of visibility, and then of course, et cetera, et cetera. So they haven't, as I said, there's an internal number, but so they've been pretty happy with what they've been able to achieve over time. So across these two areas of engagement, I would say fairly happy with how things have gone till now, and we just want to keep improving from there.
Hey,
Awesome.
thanks.
Thank you. That's the last question I had. So,
Okay. Well, great. So once again, Rohan, thank you very much. I appreciate your time today, and so do all the attendees and future listeners as well, as we will make this available on demand. And Trent, my colleague, for backing me up today. I did need your backup, so thank you very much. So on behalf of PeerSpot, thank you for your time. If you have any questions, comments, whatever the case may be, feel free to reach out directly to myself or Trent, or always reach out to the standard ways, right? On the internet or on our website, or via your customer success manager as well. So once again, thank you all for your time today. We greatly appreciate it.
thank you.
Thank you.